What's up, guys? Comedian Bill Burr recently responded to a message from one of his fans, basically taking issue with him speaking of socialism favorably. I'd like you to take a look at this because it's quite phenomenal.
Socialism. Hi, Bill, you redheaded fuck. I really appreciate the bluntness of that. How are you? Last week you mentioned you don't know why people demonize socialism. I was really taken aback at that statement. Oh, Jesus Christ. Every country that has tried socialism has failed, and it's responsible for tens of millions of deaths. All right, so would you say capitalism is working? And it is not, when what is it, 99% of the wealth is in fucking 2% of the people's hands? All of these tent cities, you're telling me this is working? You don't think capitalism is responsible for tens of millions of deaths? Anyway, Russia, Germany, China, Cuba, and most recently Venezuela have tried or right now are socialist countries. As far as I know, whatever Cuba was trying to do, we prevented them from doing with a fucking embargo or whatever the hell we did. We've been fucking with them for 60 years. So I think you're looking at what a lot of people do is you look at your own country through rose-colored glasses the same way you look at your own sports team like, oh, my team doesn't cheat, but your team does. You're really sort of looking the other way with what capitalism has done to other countries. All the sweatshop labor, all the wars we've fought in over air quote freedom, where most of it is about, natural resources. All of these fucking countries where we've gone in and, stuck in heads of the government that are going to do what we want to do so we can fucking take advantage of them. To sit there and look at capitalism like it's, I don't know, dude. All right, I took off my Birkenstock, so I'm going to read the rest of this here. Okay, socialism all starts the same way. Create a boogeyman like corporations, the rich, or a race. Oh, yeah, we've never done that in this country. We've never created a boogeyman. There's never, Jesus Christ, buddy. Blame them for all your problems. Yeah, we never did that. The leaders then promised to fix all the problems. Oh, boy. Slowly, the government starts to control every aspect of your life. Why does this sound so familiar? Promise that aren't they recording all our phone conversations now? We're slowly on our way to getting microchipped. Promise that everybody will have the same equity and outcome. This creates mediocrity, loss of the middle class. Loss of the middle class. Where have I seen that before? Of innovation. Corporations are buying houses now. They're just buying them up so they can fucking Airbnb. Literally the American dream, buying a house. They're going to take that away in this country. That reduces the tax money coming out into the government. Buddy, I can't fucking read all of this horse shit. This is everything that we're doing too. Capitalism. Okay, I'll get to the end here. Capitalism. Now, you know what? Let's just read all of this because it's fucking hilarious that he's acting like none of this is happening in this country. And you know what's funny about people? You don't like it, get the fuck out of here. This is my favorite thing ever. Yet you can look at your sports team and be like, what the fuck is this coach doing? And then nobody goes like, you don't go fucking root for somebody else. No, I'm criticizing it because I love it and I want it to win. Punish the rich, which eventually leads to them leaving the country. Oh, yeah, that hasn't happened. The rich haven't their money leaves the country and then comes back in the form of an interest-free loan that is then forgiven. Jesus, buddy, come on. The richest people usually employ the most of the population. Oh, boy. Disarm the citizens so that they cannot revolt. Control the media like promoting the government. Control the media. There's two guys that own the media. Ted Turner and fucking that other guy there. The guy from Fox News. That's why we're Hatfields and McCoys right now. Disarm the citizens so they cannot revolt. Control the media like promoting the government agenda with propaganda, then censorship of all their other ideas. Yeah, creating areas where you can only protest, which are down and around the corner, away from the fucking media. Yeah, okay. Eventually, all rights are taken away. Dissenters, journalists, and politicians, oppositions are jailed or executed. Eventually, the leaders will become exactly what they originally campaigned against. Jesus Christ, buddy. I've forgotten what you're... He goes, there's much more to it on an economic level, but as a fellow moron, it's too complicated for me to understand. All right. I am also a fellow moron, but dude, all of that shit has happened. If you look at all the rights and everything that you have lost in the last fucking 20 years, I don't even know. I don't even begin in creating a boogeyman and racism, genocide, all of that shit. We've done all of that. We've done all of that. You know, when I was a kid, there was rules on media ownership. No one person could own any 7. It was rules of 7. No one person can own 7 radio stations, newspapers, TV stations, blah, 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 in one market, because they knew if you owned all of that, if you control the media, you control thought. And yet they've let Ted Turner and that fucking, I want to say Ralph Nader, Rupert Murdoch, do exactly that. And present CNN and Fox News have the fucking balls to present the people that are on TV as journalists and then also acting as though you're watching news. You're not. You're watching propaganda.
All right, now that you've watched that, as I said in the beginning, I thought it was very incredible, and hopefully you found it to be the same. I wouldn't have expected to receive that kind of response from Bill Burr, but nevertheless, I'm glad we got it, and we are here to review it. Now, I should tell you first and foremost that this portion of the video shouldn't be very long because Bill Burr's response was so great that I don't think I need to add much of anything to what he already had to say, but nevertheless, I will put my little 2 cents here in at the end anyway. So, firstly, I would like to point out the obvious. The level of projection that goes on when the pro-capitalism crowd goes to defending what they hold so near and dear to their hearts is quite hysterical to me, and it's honestly kind of disgusting. Bill Burr framed it as, my team doesn't cheat, but your team does. You know, these problems that capitalism causes, their defenders will come out and blame pretty much anything and everything but the economic system that actually causes the problems. So getting into the things that I would like to highlight from that video is, firstly, the writer of that message brought up other countries that have apparently tried socialism or a version of it. And he pointed out their failures, and everywhere it's been tried, it's failed. Well, I have news for you. You can't speak of another country's failures for trying an economic system and not talk about everything that goes on with that. So let's talk about Cuba for a brief moment. How can you speak of Cuba and the struggles of the Cuban people and the Cuban government and not bring up the very harsh and illegal embargo that the U.S. has imposed on Cuba, as well as the sanction program? How can you talk about a place like Venezuela and not bring up the economic warfare that's being waged on Venezuela by the U.S. and the leading capitalist countries in the form of sanction programs? How can you talk about places like Nicaragua, for example? I don't think it was named, but I'm going to bring it up anyway, and not talk about, once again, the sanction program / economic warfare. You see, you can't talk about an economic system failing when the leading capitalist countries, specifically the United States in many cases, has done everything, whether it be in the form of coups and overthrowing their democratically elected governments, whether it be the ridiculous economic warfare or whatever else is within their means to stifle, to delay, to stunt, to oppose, or outright get rid of and just stop completely their growth in any sort of positivity that may come out of their venture of doing something different. You see, when you don't toe the line and promote neoliberalism and capitalism and neoconservatism, well, the leading capitalist countries will overthrow your government, or they'll hit you with a vicious sanction program, like the U.S. is actually doing with China currently, because China isn't following the capitalist model, and they're hitting China with sanctions, but it isn't really working because China is already on their own 2 feet. And since we're on the subject of China, let's speak about China for a brief moment and the success of socialism in their case. China calls what they have socialism with Chinese characteristics. I would bet you $1 million that the gentleman that wrote in that letter to Bill Burr wouldn't be able to give you even a semblance of what that means or looks like. China has experienced growth over the past couple of decades compared to the United States, many times what the United States has been growing over the past couple of decades. their wages, what their working class, Chinese working class, what they've been earning over the past couple of decades has quadrupled. What the United States working class has been earning over the past couple of decades has been stagnant. Wages, by and large, the real wage, by and large, hasn't gone anywhere. China's economy is expanding and growing exponentially, and the U.S.'s economy is either going nowhere or shrinking. There is no comparison. If you want to talk about success, that's probably the greatest example that you can show anyone when asked the question about success under a different economic system that isn't capitalism. I mean, if it's the ridiculous motioning towards government control that he brought up in that message that Bill read, I mean, Edward Snowden is quite literally a hero for exposing our government, the government of a capitalist a society that promotes capitalism, violating our Fourth Amendment rights. You know, the NSA spying and everything else that he did. If that's not government control, I have no idea what is. Whether it's bailing out these big banks and corporations that are too big to fail, who does that? The government does that. It seems like there's a lot of government control going on in capitalism. Furthermore, and I'll end with this, in the past, here in the present, and certainly to come in the future, people have always disagreed on what they believe socialism looks like. Socialism cannot be defined as one specific thing. That doesn't do it nearly enough justice, but of course, the people that would like to, or the people that abhor it, don't really give a damn about that fact. Whether it's the Chinese model, whether it's the model that they support in Western Europe that we typically refer to as social democracy, some of them may call that socialism, others may disagree. Whether it be the old Soviet model, whether it be whatever else, people have always had differing opinions on what socialism specifically is, and that's a fact. This video was phenomenal. Hopefully you found it as delightful as I did. As I said, I didn't expect to get this really from Bill Burr, but I'm glad we did.